And record. All right, everybody, welcome to today's road mapping session on our old friend about moving the deb and RPM packages to community infrastructure. Here is what I'm going to try to lead us through today. We have three primary activities. The first is to define some user personas. Who here is new to the concept of user persona? You could raise your hand or shout out, hey, tell me what that means. Okay, I guess we're all familiar with them. But just in case I missed somebody, user persona is like a person that we build things for. We take, it's about empathizing with a person who will actually use the work that we are developing and coming up with a fictitious person who represents the actual customers or users based on what we know about our customers and users. So we'll do that. Then we will take this bucket of items that we have been identifying over time and plot them very quickly on this matrix so that we can identify what are going to be easy, high impact things we can do, what are going to be difficult, high impact things that we can do, what are just like maybe things we can drop because they're not going to add that much value, but they're also low effort. And then things that are high effort and also maybe not the highest impact, depends, but they're thankless tasks. They're not super fun, but we have to do them sometimes to keep things running. And then once we have figured out where the items fit on this map, that will help us prioritize them a bit, because we'll see which ones are going to require a lot of effort, which ones won't. Then we will start plotting items here so that we can actually think about milestones in our development sequence. And so I've given these boxes, these titles, these would be deliverables. You should, those are software deliverables. I would make that a little clearer because docs are also a deliverable, but here we just have a layer for docs. Then we have communication. So these would be things like informing the community about a decision or a stage or a thing they have to do. Process. So how do we improve the whole process, or what gaps do we have to fill in the process involving this development? And then lastly, risks, questions, blockers. So not all of the items here will be represented. We will want to make new items for some of these boxes based on what we have to do. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to drop the Miro in one last time so that everybody has the link. All right. So everybody should have access. It seemed like everybody got access to this board and you can move things around. I'm just going to move this there. Okay, so make sure that you can make a sticky note. To do that, just do what I have done. I go over here to this bar and click the sticky note icon, and there I go. There's one. So there's already a lot set up here for us. So for the next 3 minutes, I just want you to, okay, I'll wait till everybody's tested it out. Okay, it looks like things are going okay. All right, so for the next 3 minutes, I want you to think about who is going to use this work? Who is going to use whatever facet, if it's the process, if it's taking an action that's related to this work, who is affected? Who needs this work to be done? Who needs this work to be done successfully and easily? Just anything that you know There's no wrong answers here. Just use the Post-its and just brain dump, and then put the Post-its that you create in this box. So keep them here in this box. So we will stop at 11 after the hour on this stage. And by the way, as you're filling out your Post-its, why don't you just take a look at the box or the template to the right. So don't only think about their job title or their hands-on actions with the work. Think about their reality. Like, are they pressed for time? Are they interested in certain related elements of Kubernetes that is relevant to this work? What is their personality? What does their reality look like? What skills do they have? Please add what you know related to those categories as well. I'll get rid of some of these batches, make more room. But yeah, you can use these Post-its as well. Just claim them. Go ahead. Okay, we are 11. Does anybody need a couple seconds more to finish a Post-it or get one on the board that you have in mind? No? I will take the silence as a no, and we will go ahead. All right, let's take a look at what you have contributed. The first one, users running images built by Cluster API Image Builder, end users and package consumers, SIG release contributors. We will build admins with a question mark, end users who are maintaining their own clusters, infra maintainers ensuring the availability of the packages, release managers monitoring the overall process, people building lifecycle management tooling, release managers who need a limited window of time to cut a release, users that don't want to manage dependencies themselves. Do we see any clusters here or overlaps, or we're saying the same things? If so, just let's take a few seconds to cluster the same items together. And I'll have you do that as a group. So just, yeah, bunch the same things together.
So end users are definitely one user persona, right? But I'm wondering if we can also see people building lifecycle management tooling as end users directly.
What does the group think?
I would say yes.
Okay. Want to share
That
why?
include vendors in a sense?
I think so.
Okay, have we clustered all of the same things together?
I would say users who don't want to manage dependencies are also end users, right?
So I think that one can split between end users and like vendors.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, we probably then add another node and directly call them vendors, right?
Vendors?
Well,
Yeah.
either vendors or I don't want to limit it to just vendors, but it would be vendors or projects/products that are offering something to users. So kind of like a middleman.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, I've got vendors. Do we want?
But do we
The
need
other one?
vendor distinction in this case? Like everyone is going to use those packages as provided. Like no one is really going to change anything on it. Maybe Kubernetes when you build some distro or something like that. Like you just take packages from the repo and eventually build it in your script. Is it your in-house build script for your own infra or something to be used by other people? You're still eventually end user to some degree.
Let's go back to the purpose for this for a moment. This is why we think it was needed, or why it's needed. Part of the effort for the community to fully realize, own the infrastructure related to Kubernetes, ensure all aspects of project releases can be stacked across companies. Current way we're doing things is not sustainable, reliable. I'll drop this here on the board so we can just have it close by us.
Yeah, I think for
Bigger.
our purpose, we're focusing on people who are consuming the DEBs and RPMs, not necessarily people who are building their own DEBs and RPMs.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
it makes a difference if we say, okay, an end user is someone who has the full control over their distribution and installs the packages on their own, and is also has the possibility, for example, to skip the GPG sign or anything like that. And I think vendors should take or are taking this control away from the actual end user of the package and take care of, yeah, shipping the right versions and things like that. So I think there's a difference, but I'm not sure what this means in the end, right? So
Yeah, I think that's why I was trying to kind of make, instead of using vendor, make it a little bit more nebulous, because things like Cluster API are users of Cluster API are consuming those packages even if they don't realize it. So you have that middle person of the project or product that is using the DEBs and RPMs in a way that the end user isn't aware of. And I think you could count other, and I don't want to single out Cluster API because it's doing things in its own way. But I think like COPS and other tooling in that space is doing the exact same thing as well.
So we won't be able to realistically think of all the personas of this work. We would want to think about the one or two who will most benefit or who be served by this work. So taking what we have here, why it's needed, why is it needed now, and then what you've just been describing and what you've done here in the board. Can you quickly vote on the two personas here that you think are the primary, the ones we really need to focus our work on? So like this is one cluster, right? So I've grouped these objects together. This is another. So these are all now the different personas from my understanding. So can you each put 2 icons on the 2 personas that you think are most important?
So I
And
would
you can do
actually,
that by, yeah,
sorry, I would actually probably collapse down the users running images built by cluster API directly into the end users.
okay.
And I think
do
that's definitely one persona that we need to target, is just the end user who's consuming the thing that eventually, you know, the package, using the packages, the actual target end user, for lack of a better term.
How does that sit with the rest of the group here? Anybody object to that, or you think that's fine?
So in this concrete case, we, for example, have people building lifecycle management tooling as one of, for example, the end users. But if you like, this feels more like on in between the end users and vendors, because people building lifecycle management tooling is usually going to be vendor, not really end user.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say. I think we need to move out the people building lifecycle management tooling.
Okay.
And that's like the projects and the vendors that are leveraging the devs and RPMs.
Okay. So then would that mean this could be combined with this?
I think so.
And in that sense, maybe the cluster API is probably going to be closer to that group, because users using cluster API are probably those who don't know that are using packages or not.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We can probably just delete the users running images built by cluster API, because those are end users of the project, not, you know, so the project is our end user in that case.
Okay. Done. So now I think we are ready to do our vote. And so getting back to that, just take 15 seconds to vote on the top 2 personas you think are most served by this work, or that we have to keep them in mind, so they need to be served. And you do that by adding an emoji to your choices. So you click the smiley face, and you can pick whatever one. It will just count as a vote. So take 15 seconds to do that. And then when you're done, please just put your cursor by this emoticon here with the glasses, as I have done, and then I'll know you're done. Okay. So when you're done, park your cursor near me. Make sure that your emoticon is not so big that others can see the text.
So one of the confusing parts for me is you had to drag and drop the emoji, not just click
Oh,
and
yeah.
place it.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody need more time? We done? I don't see the cursors near mine. Not everybody's anyway. Yeah, just put, there you go. Leonard. Joseph, I guess you're on the outskirts. Sasha, you're on the outskirts. I'm gonna take it that you're done. All right. So I'm gonna just put this in its own post-it because I think it summarizes the cluster that you all created earlier, just so that we have that together. I'm going to drop the heart, I'm sorry. But if we look at what we have voted on, or you have voted on, because I did not, I'm gonna be neutral here, we have these two personas, the end user and projects and vendors leveraging the RPMs. So my proposal is that we will not build out these personas today, but we can do this asynchronously and then present to the group. Who would like to participate in that effort? And basically participation is we would just create an actual fake person with a name, with interests, with personality characteristics, and put some details around their main jobs, like what are their main goals related to this work, their gains and their pains. So it's not a very intensive task at all. And also their skills. Does anybody want to participate in that? I would say it's a half-hour time commitment, maybe less. All right, well, you can think about it. If you want to do that, let me know. We will move on now to the next stage of our exercise, which is now that we have our why previously described, and we've gotten a little more detail about why based on thinking about who's going to benefit from this work. Now let's look at the tasks that we have previously identified that are related to the work. I'm going to just zoom in here a bit. I'm not going to read all of these out. What I'm going to do is give you a few minutes to do some silent reading of what's here. And then what I also would like you to do is add any items that are missing in your opinion. So if you can keep the items that you add, just here I will group the ones that are already present so we can keep those distinguished from the new ideas. So yeah, just go ahead and make post-its like you did for the first exercise in the space. And what we're doing here again is like first silent read what we've written, what we have to do to achieve our goal. And then if something's missing, make a post-it, one idea per post-it, and add it in this big area next to these two columns. So let's do until half the hour is passed. So you have about 4 minutes.
Hey, Lori, I'm not sure how to ungroup those post-its.
Okay. Here, this is how you ungroup. You go to this bar and ungroup. Oh, you want to go to that stage already? Okay, that's fine too.
Sorry, I was multitasking.
That's all right. Yeah. In the interest of time, it's a good idea. So everybody else, yeah, like just let's make sure we get all of the tasks in the board because then we can group them. All right, if you were, since we still have a bunch to do, I'm going to do a little lightning round action here. So if you're writing a post-it, please wrap it up. If you are not, please start moving the post-its here to the box where you think it belongs. Let's figure out which items are the quick wins, the major efforts, the fill-ins, the thankless tasks. As you do this, I want you to really think closely about what a fill-in task might be. A fill-in is something that isn't going to provide a lot of return, and it's going to take up a lot of time. This will help us pick out things that maybe aren't that great of a spend of time given our limited resources. I think we have a little bit of a movement of the box. I'm going to put that back. Go. Lock that down. Okay, let's get those last two on the board. Let's do that. Oh, one more. And we have one more, and then we can start looking at these. Which one is it? Anybody want to move this one? All right, gone. Okay, I want to start with these fill-ins because I wonder if we can get rid of them forever. And then there's just less to do. And let's go through and see, like, if we got rid of these items, would we have any major loss? Would it be detrimental to our efforts to achieve the goal? Would there be a cost to pay if we don't do it? So expanding documentation on the top level script to drive knowledge transfer. If we don't do this, does anything terrible happen? Can we go on?
So I think we probably do not want to skip documentation no matter whatever we do.
Okay. Do you want to move that to another box then, Jason?
If I can find that screen, sorry.
Sure, no problem. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Setting up a package host of some sort. If we don't
I
do
feel
this,
like
does
this
anything
is-
terrible happen?
I feel like this is actually a major effort. Like if you're working with them RPMs, you actually have to host them somewhere. If you don't host them, then those packages pretty much lose their purpose. So
Yeah. So the reason why I moved that one to fill in is because I read that one specifically as we were setting up a self-hosted package host instead of leveraging a third-party service that may already exist.
Yeah, I think it's likely that we use something which already exists.
So we can
So,
probably delete this one since we already have something about third party in major efforts, if I'm not mistaken. Let's double check. Oh, we see quick wins actually.
so you want to drop this one? Totally?
Yeah.
All right. All right, next one, give access to the sandbox. Yeah, this is about the sandbox environment. If we don't create this, is it a big loss? Damage done?
So for the sandbox environment referenced here, was that like kind of along the same lines as set up a package host of some sort?
I can't remember. Arnold was going to do this.
It seems to me along the same lines, because it seems like the idea would be there's a sandbox environment that we replicate the existing publishing process on.
Okay.
Yeah, for building sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't want to unilaterally try to make that decision though, since I
Okay,
have
yeah.
the least least tenure within this group.
I would say that it's a standard practice, and we kind of do this all the time anyway within the Kubernetes project. You need somewhere to build all of this, try it out, and see if it works. The reason I suspect it's not in major efforts is it's not that hard to put it together, but it's a stepping stone to all the tasks in the major effort.
Do you think it better belongs in thankless tasks, Mohammed? Something we need to do?
Yeah, let's drag it there.
Yeah, I think that's good. So Arno can weigh in. Yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, I think this also depends on what third-party solution we choose, because we will need some environment for testing stuff and for actually making sure the tooling we develop are actually working. But then again, this depends on how exactly this publishing is going to look like. And that depends on tool we choose.
Okay, I'm going to color these as well, because they are things we need to follow up on. Ask on. The last fill-in task we have is this one. Arno to schedule a meeting to specifically discuss if we're doing GPG or if we're owning the packages and who owns those keys and how and when we store them. I don't know if this happened already or.
We discussed this in one of the last SIG release or release engineering meetings, right?
We discussed, so we come to a decision.
Yeah, so I think the challenge here is it goes back to an implementation detail. Like if we use a third-party package host and build tooling, then that's potentially something that service manages rather than we do.
Okay.
So it probably wouldn't hurt to have a follow-up where we discuss with Arnaud what he was thinking.
Okay, so I'm going to move this again to thankless tasks since it's a meeting.
It's also closely linked to the two items that I've clicked on the top right corner.
Let me see.
It all goes hand in hand with all the items there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So maybe we cluster it here, and this is like a mini package of work. Why it's not grouping from the box itself. Okay, so it looks like we weren't comfortable dropping anything except this one, but every bit counts. So let's look at the quick wins then. If we took a look at this one, publishing to one or more third-party hosting services, is that something we could do today?
Yeah, I think the thing, well, I think we would need to have like a spike test to investigate what's out there and make sure it fits our needs. But if there is something that fits our needs, then we can easily configure that to start building in parallel to what we already have.
I think a little bit about this, and there is one aspect that worries me. And let's say we choose some third-party service and that service disappears someday. How exactly is this going to be handled? Since this can be a major problem for users who now have to change stuff to get it working.
Yeah, and I don't want to dive too much into implementation here, but I think there's a difference between community run infrastructure by various Linux distributions and third-party services, say like packagecloud.io, with respect to that question. So I think that's something that does need to be discussed, but I don't think if we're looking at like community-owned infrastructure, it's any more challenging than, say, for some reason, we need to change our own process in the future and it breaks users.
What would be the main outcome of this? How would we know we had done this activity, like achieved the goal of this?
I would say that we would just have debs and RPMs in multiple locations, the Google Run infrastructure and some type of third-party hosting service or services. Not necessarily that users are consuming the new packages yet, but just that they're published to multiple places.
Again, I have to take it out, group together. Okay, so I guess we've developed that quick win a little more thoroughly. In a minute, we will take it in relation to the other things on the board and start figuring out a timeline. Just in the interest of time, I'll quickly recap these two and we'll do that. So writing the messaging for the community regarding required migration to the community registry. Yeah, that will be probably fairly simple, but we can't do it until that migration has happened. And then expanding documentation on the top level script to drive knowledge transfer. I think this is in progress.
So I think what will be useful to clarify here what exactly means by top level script. For example, are we thinking of the script that Google Build admin already used, for example, to manage the RPMs and debs? And if that's the case, is this something what are we going to continue using? Because if we switch to some, I don't know, however we decide to publish those RPMs, do we need that at all?
So I think from this aspect, the top level script is the actual release script, not necessarily the subcomponent that's doing the current publishing of the building and publishing of the RPMs right now.
Yeah, maybe we have to rephrase it to provide documentation about the overall process, how it works, and also documentation for end users, how to use the new infrastructure, and as well as migrating from the old packages to the new one. At least we need process documentation for release managers to clarify when the process doesn't work as expected, right? So.
I've put these two items here, docs on how the process works and when it's not working as expected, what to do for release managers, and then docs. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like a major effort, right? Not a quick one.
Okay. And then here's docs for end users about the old infra and new.
Is that the same as writing the messaging for the community requiring the migration?
Good question.
And here, that's mentioning community registry, but considering the topic, I think we mean community repository there. Not to be sorry about being pedantic, but I want to make sure we're not conflating the registry work that's going on for the container images with the Debian RPM work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the migration can be something like a changelog or email or something like this, but we need some more static. For example, we enhanced the documentation for design container images on K website, and I would expect that we do the same for the packages.
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So we have an email. I'm going to take registry out because that doesn't seem correct. Does anybody object to that? Okay. Let's call it repository. So then we have an email going out when the migrations happened. We have this documentation. Marco's question, what does top level script mean? We broke that down a little bit to the docs for end users, and then the docs for release managers.
I think the docs for end users, we can probably group with the messaging for the community.
Okay.
Versus there, because different target audience.
Right. And then you can always just write the email and saying, here are the docs. Okay. All right. So we've gone through the quick wins. Now the scary, challenging bucket. Oh, gotta group these two as well. All the major efforts. So I wonder if we can take a minute, or maybe these are already clustered together. It looks like you have clustered like items together. Am I correct there? Some clustering going on. See if we can do a little further. Go ahead.
Like, to me, the first cluster here that we have is probably the most major topic that we have to start with, because we need CREL, or the tooling we use to build RPMs. And without that, we can't probably proceed with anything else.
Okay. So I'm gonna just put a post-it with the number 1. So the group can think about, like, would this be our next step? Or is it this, actually outlining the plan in the KEP? Or is it something else? But I think first, if we just make sure we clustered everything that's related or overlapping, that's going to help us reduce the number of things we have to think about overall, like mini packages of work, basically. So we did that here. Looks like this one is also, but can these little stray items go under either of those buckets?
There is this top level script posted that is similar to one that I have in QuickWins. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you're right. I'm gonna put it over there.
We can probably move this whole clarification point to the cap, because this would be our point in time where we say, hey, we want to use this and that hosting service, and then propose it as an enhancement. And then we
Okay,
start with
so
the
I
implementation. Probably, yeah.
so I did this and put the 4 together. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If we clustered everything to the best that we can, and these are all kind of unrelated items that are just milestones or standalone
Right.
tasks.
I think these two can probably be grouped together.
Okay.
Well, actually, those will also, well, I don't know. Actually, those are tied pretty closely to the docs and writing the messaging as well.
Okay, so however you want to cluster them, whatever works for you. Yeah, just move. Okay, so these, yeah, these 4.
Yeah.
I really don't know why we have to go out of the box and group them together, but yeah, we do. Okay. I'm just doing some color coding of these because what?
Oh, ah, what happened?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure. I think we'll just get rid of those lines. We get it. You see the different colors of the box. And this move as well. Oh boy. All right. I'm just going to color these items because we will classify these as efforts. Put a
Where did that top level script stuff go?
let's look. Here it is. Where I'm pointing. Yeah.
These docs on how process works, I mean, this is something that actually comes after. Because if we are talking about writing docs in a sense that how do we debug everything when something goes wrong and so on, this depends on actually everything else being finished.
Hmm. That's a good
Yeah.
point. I think Sasha, you had suggested we put that. What do you think? Take it out? Do it after?
Yeah, so the docs about the process should be part. Probably we can move it over to the implementation for Krell and QPKG and things like that, because when we change something like this, then we can also write some new docs about it.
Okay. All right, so we have about 6 minutes left. What I want us to do now is plot these clusters of items here. So put them in order. What do we have to do first? I'm going to actually pull this one out because we didn't get group consensus on whether this is first, but Marco had thought it should be there. So Marco, you can move that to the first milestone if you think that's what we have to do first. But essentially take all of these items and plot them in order. And I'll give you another milestone in case you need one. And what I want you to do while you plot them is think about what would you do first to unblock the rest of the work. So you do this because it's going to make everything else afterwards easier, go faster, etc.
So I would say that what we have in milestone 1 should actually go to milestone 3. Like milestone 1 should probably be the cap. And
Okay, so just move
archive all
it.
this
But
stuff.
yeah, we don't really have time for a discussion right now because we have 5 minutes left, so we can discuss once you've plotted everything. So everybody just take the clusters and move them in order and see what let's just plot them all here. And we can talk about whether we agree with the order after that's done. Okay, there's only 3 more that aren't in the milestones. So if we can get those in there.
Where do we put stuff that we are not sure yet where should go?
Questions? And if you're waiting, if you think of a blocker or a risk or a question, add it as a post-it, either underneath a related milestone, or if you're not sure where it goes, you can just put it to the left of the board. These are outside of the order. I'm not sure who moved them here, the generate new keys. Is there a reason for that, or does it just get dropped? Yeah, okay. All right. So we're not going to be able to go through all the details of all these things now, like today, because we're out of time. But what I'm going to do is take this data and revise this spreadsheet and put the items in order based on what you've said. And we'll also have some cues for questions and things like that, so we can just build out the details, what's missing. I have a question. and you can think about this and state in the channel as we head out, because we're done. If we were able, or if you were able to just focus on this particular deliverable, getting this out the door, would you be willing to sign up for that? So this would be the only thing beyond like any operational requirements you've got. Like if you're a release manager, obviously releasing is something you can't drop, but anything else, if you're doing 5 other things, like if you were able to just focus on working on this, could you do it? Would you be willing to do it so that we could get this done?
And how do you want us
Let the
to,
group,
how do you want us to identify that, specify that?
we can do it in a spreadsheet. I'll put a field for willing to work full-time on this, and you can drop your name there, and then we will know who has signed up for, like, this is my top priority, I'm on board.
Right. I didn't know if you wanted us to do it on the Miro board. That's why I was asking.
You can do that as well. If you already know, go ahead. But yeah, if not, you want to think about it, there'll be a field in the spreadsheet and you can drop your name there then after you've given some time. So I don't want to hold up people any longer. Thank you everybody for contributing. I hope this was useful. I hope you felt like this was productive. Feel free to let me know either way in DMs or however you want to do it. But I hope you feel better about how we've moved forward on this item and you feel like we've moved forward today. All right.
Thank you. See ya.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.